She has nowhere else to go. That is the truth. And Kyra knows it like she knows the cold seeping through her threadbare dress. 3 days she has waited outside the gates of Ironholt. 3 days since the soldiers brought word that her father would not be coming home. 3 days since the world ended. She has asked for shelter, for work, for anything. But the fortress guards do not see a grieving child. They see a nuisance, a beggar, something to step around like refuse in the road. So when the Alpha King himself rides through those gates, his werewolf padding beside him like a shadow made flesh, Kyra does the only thing left. She steps into his path. "Please," she says. "My father served you. He died in your war. I have nowhere to go." The courtyard falls silent, the kind of silence that happens when people stop breathing. Because the man she has just addressed is Alpha King Varric of Ironholt, the Wolf King, the conqueror of 11 realms. Men twice her size would not dare meet his eyes. He looks down at her from his warhorse. Those eyes, pale as winter frost, hold nothing she can read. "Leave," he says. "My fortress is not an orphanage, and that should be the end of it." Everyone expects her to run, to flee, to disappear like all the others dismissed by that cold, final voice. Kyra turns toward the gate, tears blurring her vision. She has taken 3 steps when the sound stops her. A growl, low, ancient, dangerous. The werewolf has moved. That massive creature, bonded to the king since before the wars began, has planted himself directly in the gate. His amber eyes fix on Kyra. His body blocks her only exit. She cannot leave. The wolf will not let her. So now the entire courtyard is wondering the same thing. Why would the king's own werewolf defy his command for a girl he just ordered to leave? Kyra stared at the wolf. The wolf stared back. She had seen werewolves before, from a distance. They ran alongside the king's armies, shadows made of muscle and teeth. Papa had told her stories about them, how they bonded to only one master in their entire lives, how they obeyed without question, how they killed without hesitation. This one was the largest she had ever seen. His shoulders came up to her chest. His fur was the color of smoke and ash, streaked with old scars. And he stood between her and the gate like he had been carved there. "Keth." The king's voice cracked across the courtyard. "Move." The wolf did not move. Kyra's heart hammered against her ribs. She did not understand what was happening. The king had told her to leave. She was leaving. She wanted to leave, actually, because this place was cold and terrible, and everyone here looked at her like she was dirt. Keth lowered his massive head and took 1 step toward her. Kyra stumbled backward. Her heel caught on a stone. She went down hard, palms scraping against frozen ground, and suddenly the wolf was right there, enormous and terrifying, and he laid his head in her lap. She stopped breathing. The wolf's eyes closed. His great body settled against the ground beside her. One ear twitched. A long exhale escaped him, warm against her frozen fingers. Around them, the courtyard had turned to statue. "That is impossible," someone whispered. Kyra did not know what was impossible. She did not know anything except that her hands were shaking and the wolf's fur was warm and he was very heavy against her legs. "Good boy," she whispered, because she did not know what else to say. The wolf's tail moved. Once. A tiny wag. Heavy footsteps approached. Kyra looked up into the face of the Alpha King. He had dismounted. He stood 3 feet away, and his expression, she could not read it. But something had cracked behind that frost-colored gaze. Something that looked almost like pain. "Keth has never done that." His voice came out rough. "In 12 years, he has never let anyone else touch him." Kyra's fingers tightened in the wolf's fur. "I am sorry. I did not mean to. What is your name?" "Kyra. Kyra Brennan." The name landed like a physical blow. The king's face went white. His whole body locked, every muscle rigid, and for one terrifying moment Kyra thought he might draw his sword. "Brennan," he repeated. Flat. Careful. "Your father." His name was Brennan. "Yes." Her voice came out small. He was your soldier. He died at Thornwood Pass 3 weeks ago. The soldiers only brought word 3 days past. She swallowed. They sent me his medal and his boots. The boots do not fit. Silence stretched between them. The king's jaw worked. He looked at Keith, then at her, then back at Keth. Take her inside, he said finally. His voice had changed. Something had drained out of it. Find her a room, food, whatever she needs. A guard stepped forward hesitantly. Your Majesty. The wolf. The wolf's head lifted. A growl rumbled through that massive chest, and the guard went pale and stepped back. Keth will stay with her, the king said. Each word sounded like it cost him something. Apparently. He turned away sharply. His cloak snapped behind him as he strode toward the fortress, but Kyra saw it before he turned. The way his hands were shaking. The way he walked like a man carrying something too heavy to set down. The wolf nudged her hand with his nose. Those knowing eyes looked up at her, patient and ancient and unbearably gentle. I do not understand, Kyra whispered to him. Why did you stop me? Keth rose to his feet. He was so tall that her head barely reached his shoulder. His great body pressed against her side, steadying her, warming her. Then he started walking toward the fortress, clearly expecting her to follow. She followed. The guards parted around them like water around stone. Everyone stared. A few whispered, but no one tried to stop them. At the inner gate, Kyra paused. She looked back at the courtyard, at the massive iron gates, at the road that led to nowhere. She had come here to beg, to grovel, to ask for scraps. Instead, a king's werewolf had chosen her. She turned and followed the wolf into the fortress. Behind her, visible through a high window, the Alpha King stood motionless, his hands pressed flat against the stone wall. He was staring at the place where she had been, and his expression was the expression of a man who had just seen a ghost. Lysara had been summoned to Ironholt 3 months ago to cure an incurable king. The terms had been simple: fix whatever was wrong with Alpha King Varric. The violent episodes, the uncontrolled transformations, the blackouts that left him shaking and hollow. Fix all of it, or spend the rest of her life in a cell for crimes she had not committed. So far, she had failed. She watched from the infirmary window as the chaos in the courtyard unfolded. The child, the wolf, the king's face going white as bone. Interesting, she murmured. Behind her, Lady Morna, the elderly servant who had become her closest ally, made a disapproving sound. That girl will be dead by morning. The king does not take in strays. The king just did. The wolf did. Different thing entirely. Lysara turned from the window. Keth has never bonded to anyone but the king. In the entire history of werewolves, they bond once. Only once. I know the lore. Then you know this should be impossible. Lysara moved to her work table where vials and herbs sat in precise rows. Which means either everything we know about werewolves is wrong, or there is something very unusual about that child. Dinner that evening was held in the small hall. Lysara attended as court healer, a position that required her presence but not her opinion. She took her seat at the far end of the table and watched. The regent, Lord Heron, sat at the king's right hand. Silver-haired, impeccably dressed, with the kind of calm smile that never quite reached his eyes. He had served as Varric's guardian during the king's childhood, and now served as his most trusted advisor. Lysara did not trust him. She could not say why. He was courteous, intelligent, efficient. But something about the way he watched the king made her uneasy. The doors opened. Every head turned. The child walked in. She wore a simple gray dress, clearly borrowed, hanging loose on her thin frame. Her dark hair had been washed and combed. Her eyes, one brown, one green, swept the room with nervous determination, and beside her, pacing like a shadow-given form, walked Keth. The king's werewolf had claimed a new master, A young kitchen girl followed behind them, carrying a small plate of bread and cheese. She had a round face and kind eyes, and she hovered near Kara with obvious protectiveness. "That is Bryn," Lady Morna murmured to Lysara, kitchen staff. "She has apparently adopted the child as her personal responsibility." Lysara watched Bryn guide Kyra toward a seat, whispering encouragements. The girl seemed genuinely fond of the child. Lysara filed it away. The king's gaze tracked Kyra across the room with an intensity that stole Lysara's breath. He looked at the girl like she was something dangerous, something precious, something that hurt just to see. "Your Majesty." Lord Heron's voice was smooth. "Surely the child should eat with the servants?" "She stays." 2 words, final as a tomb ceiling shut. Heron's smile did not waver. "Of course." He gestured to a chair. "Come, child, sit." The girl, Kara, looked at the chair, then at the wolf, then at the king. Her chin lifted. "Thank you, but Keth does not like you." The silence that followed was magnificent. The wolf had positioned himself between Kara and Heron. Ears flat, hackles raised, a low rumble building in his chest. Heron's composure cracked for just a moment. His eyes flickered with something cold. Then he laughed, light and dismissive. "Animals are such simple creatures." "Keth is not simple," Kyra said. "He is wise. Papa always said animals know things people forget how to see." A shadow crossed the king's face. A flinch, quickly suppressed. Lysara filed it away. The father. The name. The king's reaction. Pieces of a puzzle she did not yet understand. Kyra sat at the far end of the table near Lysara. Bryn hovered nearby until a sharp look from the head steward sent her scurrying back to the kitchens. The wolf curled at Kyra's feet, his wolf-bright stare never leaving Heron. "I am Lysara," Lysara said quietly, "the court healer." Kara studied her with those strange, dual-colored eyes. "Are you going to tell me to go away?" "No." "Why not?" "Because Keth chose you, and wolves are better judges of character than people." A tiny smile flickered across the girl's face. After dinner, Lysara lingered in the corridor. She watched Heron approach the king near the eastern stairwell. Their voices were low, but she had good ears. She could be a plant, an assassin's tool, a weapon aimed at your heart. She is a child. She is a liability. Heron's voice dropped lower. "She needs to go, Varric, before she causes damage we cannot undo." Lysara could not see the king's face, but she heard his response. "The wolf stays. The girl stays. This conversation is over." Footsteps. A door closing. Lysara pressed herself into the shadows as Heron passed. He did not see her, but she saw him. His face, in the torchlight, held no trace of the courteous advisor. His eyes were cold, calculating, fixed on the corridor where Kyra had disappeared, and the smile on his lips made Lysara's blood run cold. Kyra had been at Ironholt for 1 week when she found the boy in the kennels. She was not supposed to be in the kennels. She was not supposed to be anywhere, really, except her room. But Keth got restless when he was cooped up too long, and the servants were too afraid of him to tell her where to go, so Kyra had started exploring. Today, something was wrong. She heard the crying first. Quiet. Muffled. The kind of crying someone was trying very hard to hide. Kyra followed the sound around a corner and stopped. A boy, maybe 2 years older than her, knelt in the straw. His shirt was off. His back was a mess of red welts. An older man stood over him with a leather strap. "You will learn," the man was saying. "You will learn, or you will bleed until you do." The strap rose. "Stop!" The word tore out of Kara before she could think. She was across the kennel in 3 steps, putting herself between the man and the boy. "What do you think you are doing, girl?" "No." The word came out clear and sharp and absolutely certain. Behind her, a growl built like thunder rolling across mountains. Keth had followed her. He padded out of the shadows, and the man with the strap went white. "Hitting a child is not business," Kara said. Her voice was shaking, but she did not care. My papa said people who hurt children are cowards. She turned to the boy. What is your name? Tommen, he whispered. Come with me, Tommen. She took his hand and walked out of the kennel. Keth followed. The man with the strap did not move. The great hall was full when Kyra marched in. She did not know there was a council meeting happening. She did not know that every important person in Ironholt was watching the Alpha King review military reports. Your Majesty. Every head turned. The king looked up from his maps. His eyes found her, then found the boy behind her, then found the welts on the boy's back. His face tightened. Something dangerous stirred behind his eyes. Explain. There is a man in the kennels hitting children with a strap, Kyra said. Tommen did not do anything wrong. He just dropped a bucket. And the man was hurting him. And I know you are very busy, and I am sorry for interrupting, but Papa said, when you see something wrong, you have to say something. Lord Heron cleared his throat. Your Majesty, discipline among the servants is a matter for the household steward. I did not ask you. Heron's mouth closed. The king rose from his chair. He walked toward them, tall and imposing, and Kyra suddenly remembered all the stories about him, the Wolf King, the conqueror. But she did not flinch. She thought about Papa, who had stood up to bullies twice his size. The king stopped in front of Tommen. He crouched, bringing himself to the boy's level. Who did this? The kennel master, Your Majesty, Master Garrett. The king's jaw tightened. He stood and turned to the nearest guard. Bring me Master Garrett, now. His voice was ice. And send word through every hall in this fortress. Any man caught striking a child will lose the hand that held the weapon. My word is law. A murmur ran through the council. The king turned back to Kyra. That frost-colored gaze searched her face. Your father. What was his name again? Brennan, Your Majesty. His composure fractured. Just for a moment. He taught you this. To speak up. To protect the weak. Yes. Even when you are afraid. Especially when I am afraid. Papa said courage is not about not being scared. It is about being scared and doing the right thing anyway. The king stared at her for a long moment. Then his hand came down on her head. Brief. Gentle. Almost like a blessing. Your father, he said, and his voice cracked on the word, was the best man I ever knew. Kyra blinked. You knew him? But the king had already turned away. He was walking toward the doors and his face had gone hard and cold again. Kyra stood in the middle of the great hall with Keith pressed against her side. The king had known her father. Her father had been the best man he ever knew. But then, why had Papa died? Why had no one come for her? Why had she been left alone? Come, child. Lysara had appeared beside her. Let us find you both some food. Kyra let herself be led away, but she kept looking back. The king had known her father, and when he had said it, he had looked like a man confessing to a crime. 2 weeks passed, and Lysara watched everything. She watched the way Kyra moved through the fortress like sunlight through cracks in stone. The servants who had ignored her now nodded when she passed. The stable boys saved scraps for Keth. The kitchen staff, especially young Bryn, slipped her extra bread, and she always shared it with whoever looked hungriest. She watched the way the king watched Kyra. He kept his distance, always. Observed from doorways, lingered at windows overlooking the training yard where Kyra played with Keth. But he never approached her unless forced to. He was afraid of what she represented, what she might discover. Lysara intended to discover it first. She found her opportunity on the 14th evening, when Varric summoned her to his private chambers for her weekly assessment. The room was sparse for a king, a massive bed, rarely slept in, a desk piled with reports, a fireplace that burned low, and weapons everywhere. A room built for a man who expected attack. Varric stood at the window, his back to her. Your report, he said. Lysara clasped her hands behind her back. Your episodes have decreased in frequency since I adjusted your evening tonic. However, the underlying cause remains unclear. Unclear. His voice was flat. The symptoms do not match any condition in my training. Sudden loss of control. Violent transformation. Memory gaps. She paused. These are not natural, Your Majesty. He turned, those pale eyes fixed on her. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that something is causing this. Something external. You think I am being poisoned? I think it is worth investigating. You are not the first healer to suggest this. I have had my food tested. My wine. My water. Nothing. Perhaps they were not testing for the right thing. And you know what the right thing is? Not yet. Lysara met his gaze steadily. But I am very good at finding answers. Something flickered in his expression. Interest, perhaps, or hope, quickly buried. The girl, he said abruptly. How is she? Kyra? She is thriving. The servants adore her. And Keth? Has not left her side for more than 10 minutes since she arrived. Varric turned back to the window. He should not have chosen her, he murmured. Werewolves bond once. Only once. It should not be possible. And yet, his hands pressed flat against the window frame. She has his eyes, the same mismatched colors. Lysara went still. Whose eyes? A long pause. No one, Varric said. Forget I spoke. But Lysara did not forget. May I ask something, Your Majesty? You may ask. The girl's father, you knew him. His shoulders went rigid. Yes. He died at Thornwood Pass. Yes. How? The silence was complete. He died, Varric said finally, each word pulled from somewhere deep and bleeding. Because I gave an order. An order based on information I trusted. Information that was wrong. Lysara's mind raced. Wrong information. A trusted source. A soldier dead because of it. Who gave you the information? Varric's head bowed. I have asked myself that question every night for 3 weeks. He did not answer it, but Lysara saw the way his hands had clenched into fists, the way his breath came shallow and uneven. He knew, or he suspected, and the knowledge was eating him alive. A knock at the door shattered the moment. Enter, Varric called, his voice snapping back to cold authority. A servant appeared. Your Majesty, Lord Heron requests your presence in the war room. Varric straightened. The mask slid back into place. We are finished here, he told Lysara. Continue your work. Report any findings directly to me. He strode past her, and the door closed behind him. Lysara stood alone in the king's chambers. He had not looked toward the door when she asked who gave him the information. He had looked toward Heron's wing of the castle. That night, Lysara could not sleep. She paced her chambers, reviewing everything she knew. The episodes had started 4 years ago, shortly after the king took full control from his regency. Heron had remained as advisor, trusted and indispensable. The symptoms, loss of control, violent transformation, memory gaps. They worsened under stress. She needed proof. And she knew where to find it. The corridor outside Heron's chambers was empty. Lysara moved like a shadow. Before she had been a healer, she had been other things. Things that required silence and stealth. Heron's study door was locked. She picked it in under a minute. Inside, the room was meticulously organized. Too neat. The study of a man with secrets. She searched carefully. The ledgers showed nothing unusual. But then her fingers found a seam in the desk drawer. A false bottom. Her pulse quickened. Beneath the false panel lay a small leather journal. She opened it. Formulas, dosages, notes in cramped handwriting. Subject responds to increased concentration with heightened aggression and loss of rational control. Transformation becomes involuntary. Memory of episode is fragmentary or absent. Recommend continuing current regimen. Lysara's blood ran cold. She turned the pages. Dates that corresponded with Varric's episodes. References to something called thornbloom extract. It was a neurotoxin. In small doses, it caused confusion and irritability. In larger doses, It could induce violent episodes and blackouts. Heron had been poisoning the king for years. A sound in the corridor. Lysara closed the journal and slipped it into her cloak. She was out the window and onto the narrow ledge before the door opened. She pressed herself flat against the stone, not breathing, as torchlight flickered inside. Footsteps. A pause. Then the door closed again. Lysara waited a full 10 minutes before climbing down. She had proof. But she needed to catch him in the act. She needed to identify which food or drink carried the poison before she could stop it. The anniversary feast was tomorrow. She would watch everything. The great hall was filled with nobles and soldiers. Wine flowed freely. Too freely. Lysara positioned herself near the king's table, watching Heron with predatory focus. The advisor was charming, attentive, personally ensuring the king's goblet was never empty. By the second hour, Lysara could see the signs beginning. The tightness around Varroc's eyes. The way his hands gripped the table edge. Across the hall, Kyra sat with Keith, feeding him scraps under the table. She was laughing at something Lady Morna had said. The old woman had taken to sitting near the child during meals, a quiet guardian presence. Then Varroc's head snapped up. His breathing changed, the color draining from his face, his pupils dilating, a tremor starting in his hands. No, he breathed. Not here. He shoved back from the table. His chair crashed to the floor. Your Majesty? Heron's voice was perfectly concerned. Are you unwell? Varroc did not answer. He was already staggering toward the side door, hands pressed against his temples. Kara was on her feet. Wait, Lysara called, but the girl was already running. Keth bounded ahead. The wolf reached Varroc first, pressing his massive body against the king's legs. Varroc's back arched. His bones began to crack. Everyone out, Lysara commanded. Clear the hall. Chaos erupted. In the madness, Lysara saw Heron standing perfectly still, watching. Watching like a man observing an experiment. The transformation took Varroc completely. A massive silver wolf stood in the wreckage of the king's clothing. His eyes held no recognition, only blind fury. He lunged, not at the crowd, at Kara. Keth intercepted him. The two wolves crashed together with a sound like thunder. They rolled across the floor, snarling and snapping, and Kara walked toward them. Stop! Lysara screamed. Run! But the girl kept walking. Her small hand reached out. It is all right, she said softly. I am here. The silver wolf froze mid-snarl. Kyra placed her hand on his muzzle. You are not a monster, she whispered. Monsters do not kneel for children. You are good. I know you are good. The wolf's chest heaved. A shudder ran through his massive body. And then, slowly, impossibly, he sank to the floor. Kara sat down beside him. Her small hand stroked his fur. I am here, she said again. I will not leave. Lysara stood motionless. In the shadows by the far door, Heron watched. His face held no concern, only calculation. Lysara met his eyes across the ruined hall. And in that moment, she knew he knew. He knew she had found the journal. He knew she suspected. And he was already planning what to do about it. The king did not wake for 6 hours. Lysara stayed with him, monitoring his breathing. Kyra refused to leave. She sat curled against Keth, her hand resting on the silver wolf's flank. He dreams, Kara said softly. Bad dreams. I can feel him shaking. How did you know he would not hurt you? Kara considered the question. I did not know. But he was hurting. When people are hurting, they need someone to stay. Near dawn, the wolf stirred. The transformation reversed slowly. Lysara turned away, giving him privacy, and when she looked back, Varroc sat slumped against the wall. His face was gray. Kara had not moved. You stayed, Varroc rasped. You needed me to. He stared at her. I could have killed you. You would not. You do not know that. Yes, Kyra said simply. I do. Varroc's head fell back against the stone. Leave us, he said to Lysara. Please. Lysara hesitated, but the danger had passed. Whatever needed to happen between the king and this child, it was not her place to witness. She slipped out the door. Inside, Varric opened his eyes. Kara sat 3 feet away, watching him. Your father, Varric said. His voice came out wrecked. I need to tell you something. Kyra went still. He served under me for 2 years. He was the only man in my army who told me the truth, even when it was hard. He would look me dead in the eye and say, I think that is wrong, Your Majesty, and here is why. Papa always said lying was for cowards. A broken laugh escaped Varric. He said that to me once. I nearly had him flogged. He paused. I promoted him instead. What happened to him? Varric's jaw tightened. There was a battle, Thornwood Pass. I received intelligence that enemy forces had massed in the Eastern Valley. I sent a company to intercept them. Brennan led it. He swallowed. The intelligence was wrong. It was a trap. He died in the trap? No. He realized what had happened. He turned his men around and rode through the night. He arrived just as the enemy broke through our lines. Varric's voice dropped. I was fighting. I did not see the archer on the ridge. Kara's breath caught. Brennan did. He threw himself in front of the arrow. It hit him instead of me. Varric's eyes were wet. He died in my arms, Kyra. His last words were about you. He made me promise to find you. The room was silent. So you see, Varric said, I am not a hero. I am the reason your father is dead. Who gave you the intelligence? Varric's head came up. Kara's face was pale, tear-streaked, but her eyes were sharp. The intelligence that was wrong. Who gave it to you? Varric stared at her. In that moment, she looked so much like Brennan. I have suspicions, he admitted, but no proof. Kara wiped her face. Her chin lifted. Then we find proof. Kara, Papa died protecting you so you could help people. If someone is hurting you, if someone got Papa killed, we find out who, and we stop them. Varric looked at this child. You should hate me, he whispered. Papa chose to save you. That was his choice. Kyra's voice trembled but did not break. I will not make his choice mean nothing by hating the person he died for. Something inside Varric that had been frozen for years began to thaw. He reached out. His hand hovered near her face, uncertain. Kyra closed the distance. She pressed her cheek into his palm. I miss him, she whispered. I know. His thumb brushed away a tear. I miss him too. They stayed like that as dawnlight crept through the windows. Neither of them noticed the shadow that pulled back from the door. Neither of them saw the figure retreating down the corridor. Neither of them knew that every word they had spoken had been heard. Kyra could not sleep. She lay in her bed, thinking about everything the king had told her. Papa had died saving him. Papa had been his friend. Someone had given wrong information. Someone had sent Papa into a trap. Keth lay beside her bed. His presence should have been comforting. But tonight something felt wrong. A soft knock at her door. Kara sat up. Keth's head lifted, ears pricking forward. Who is there? It is Bryn, miss. The familiar voice of the kitchen girl who always saved her honey cakes. Who had stayed close since her first day. Who had become something like a friend. May I come in? Kyra relaxed. Come in. The door opened. Bryn stood in the corridor, wrapped in a traveling cloak. Her round face looked different in the dim light. Sharper somehow. I need you to come with me, miss. Quickly and quietly. Kyra frowned. Why? Bryn's hands trembled. I have received word about your father. Kyra's heart stopped. My father is dead. That is what they told you. Bryn stepped closer. But I have learned something tonight. Your father lives, miss. He is being held prisoner in an outpost beyond the northern woods. The world tilted. Papa. Alive. That is impossible, Kyra whispered. The king was deceived. Just as we all were. Bryn reached for her hand. I know a way to reach him. But we must go now. before anyone discovers what I have learned. Kara's mind raced. Papa alive. Papa waiting for her. But something tugged at her. A warning she could not quite hear. I should tell the king. Or Lysara. There is no time. If we alert anyone, your father will be killed before we can reach him. Keth growled. Bryn's eyes flickered to the wolf. For just a moment, something cold passed through her expression. The wolf cannot come. He is too recognizable. Keth goes where I go. Then your father dies. The words landed like stones. Kyra looked at Keth. The wolf's golden gaze was fixed on Bryn. His hackles had risen. He did not trust her. But Papa. I will come back, Kyra told Keith. I have to find Papa. The wolf whined. He pressed his great head against her chest. Stay here, she whispered. Guard the king. I will return. She kissed the top of his head. Then she turned and followed Bryn out the door. Behind her, Keth rose to his feet. He paced once, twice. Then he lifted his great head and howled. He did not stay. He had never intended to. The forest was dark. The moon hung low, casting silver light across frozen ground. They walked in silence. The path disappeared. The trees pressed close. How much farther? Not far now. Something was wrong. Kyra could feel it. The way Bryn walked, too quick, too purposeful. The way her voice had changed. Kyra slowed. I want to go back. Bryn stopped. She did not turn around. We are nearly there. No. Kyra's voice trembled. Keth tried to warn me. I should have listened. Silence. Then Bryn laughed. Soft and brittle. Clever child. But too late. A figure stepped out from behind the trees. Lord Heron. His eyes were flat and cold, his smile sharp as a blade. Hello, little one. Thank you for coming. Kara stumbled backward. Where is my father? Dead, I am afraid. Quite thoroughly dead. Heron walked closer. He died screaming your name. I made certain of that. Kara's whole body went cold. You killed him. I arranged his death. He was asking too many questions. Heron stopped 3 feet away. Just like you. The king will find out. Lysara will be dealt with. As will anyone else who threatens my work. Heron tilted his head. I have spent 20 years building this kingdom. 20 years molding Varric into the weapon I needed. I will not have an orphan and her dead father's memory undo everything. Kara's chin lifted. The king is not your weapon. I made him what he is. Every violent episode, my design. The poison in his wine. I taught him to believe he was broken so he would need me. Kara's stomach turned. You are a monster. I am practical. Heron drew a blade, curved and dark. And now I must be practical about you. He stepped forward. Kara screamed. Varric! The name tore out of her. He cannot hear you, Heron said calmly. No one is coming. A howl split the night, distant at first, then closer. Heron's face changed. The trees exploded. Keth burst through the underbrush, eyes blazing. He hit Bryn first, throwing her aside. Heron lunged for Kara. Something larger hit him. A silver wolf, massive and terrible, crashed into Heron. The blade flew from his hand. His body slammed against a tree. Varric. Eyes wild with fury, but controlled, precise. He pinned Heron to the ground with one massive paw. Wait, Heron gasped. You need me. Without me, you are nothing. The wolf's jaws closed around his arm. Heron screamed. Stop! Kyra's voice cut through the clearing. The wolf froze. Do not kill him, Kyra said. He needs to answer for what he did. Killing him is too easy. A long moment passed. Then the wolf released Heron's arm. Keth padded to Kyra's side. The silver wolf turned toward her. An arrow, black-shafted, flying from the trees. Bryn, risen despite her injuries, a bow in her trembling hands, aimed at Kyra. The silver wolf moved. The arrow took him in the chest. He crashed to the ground. Kyra screamed. Lysara heard the howls and knew. She found them in a clearing soaked with moonlight and blood. Heron lay crumpled against a tree. Bryn sprawled unconscious nearby. Keth stood guard over Kyra, and Varek lay in human form on the frozen ground. An arrow protruded from his chest. No, Lysara breathed. She was at his side in an instant. The arrow had struck below his heart but close. Is he breathing? Kyra's voice was terrified. Lysara pressed her fingers to his throat. Found a pulse. Weak. But there. He is alive. We need to move him. Now. Guards burst through the trees. Lysara shouted orders. Secure Heron. Bind Bryn. Send for the surgery. Kyra knelt beside her, face streaked with tears. He saved me. Again. He is stubborn that way. A ghost of a smile crossed Kyra's face. You love him. Lysara's hands faltered. You watch him the way he watches me. Like you are afraid he will disappear. Kyra took her hand. Papa always said love was not about big words. It was about showing up. Lysara's vision blurred. The litter arrived. Guards lifted Varek carefully. Lysara walked beside him the entire way back. She did not let go of his hand. 3 days. Lysara barely slept. She removed the arrow, fought the infection, mixed compounds and changed bandages. Lady Morna brought her food she barely touched, and tea she drank without tasting. Kyra never left the room. She talked to Varek constantly. You have to wake up. This is my home now, and you cannot have a home without people in it. On the third evening, a sound. Rough. Weak. Laughter. Varek's eyes were open. She has you there, he rasped. Kyra launched herself at him. Varek made a sound of pain, but his arms came up around her. I am sorry, she sobbed. I should have told you I was leaving. I should have seen what was happening long before. His eyes found Lysara. You stayed. Someone had to keep you alive. Kyra pulled back, wiping her face. Tell her the obvious thing. Varek's face did something complicated. I do not know how. You say the words. I love you. See? Easy. Varek looked at Lysara. I do not deserve you? Yes, Lysara agreed. And? His mouth twitched. And I love you anyway. Lysara crossed the room. Her hand found his. I love you too. Even though you are extremely difficult. Kyra made a sound of pure satisfaction. Now kiss. Varek looked at Lysara. Lysara looked at Varek. She is very bossy, he observed. She gets it from her father. Which one? Kyra answered before anyone else could. Both. I have 2 fathers now, the one who gave me life, and the one who saved it. She placed Varek's hand in Lysara's. And I am going to have a mother too. Lysara laughed. It came out tangled with tears. Varek's hand cupped her face. Stay, he whispered. I already told you I was staying. Stay forever. Lysara leaned down and kissed him. Behind them, Kyra cheered. Keth howled. Spring came slowly to Ironholt. The snow melted. The trees budded. The fortress began to feel like home. Lysara stood on the balcony, watching Kyra practice with a wooden sword. The girl was terrible at it. She kept apologizing to the training dummy when she hit it too hard. Varek watched from the edge of the yard, arms crossed, fighting a smile. 3 months had passed. Heron awaited trial. Bryn had confessed everything in exchange for a lesser sentence. The truth had spread through the kingdom. Where Varek had once been feared, he was now respected. Almost loved. The violent episodes had stopped entirely. There had never been anything broken about him. The council has approved the formal adoption, Varek said, appearing at Lysara's side. The documents are ready. Lysara's heart swelled. Have you told her? I was waiting for the right moment. There is no right moment. There is only now. They walked down to the training yard together. Kyra spotted them immediately. She dropped her sword and ran toward them. Did you see? I almost did the spinny thing. You almost fell over, Varek said. Almost falling is almost doing. Varek crouched to her level. I have something to ask you. If you agree, you will become my daughter. Legally. A princess of Ironholt. Kyra went very still. Your daughter. Yes. You would be my heir. My family. His voice cracked. My reason for being better. Kyra's eyes filled with tears. Papa wanted me to find you. He knew. He knew what? That I needed a home. And so did you. She threw her arms around his neck. Yes, I want to be your daughter. Varric held her tightly. Then Kyra fixed Lysara with a stern look. You too. You have to be my mother now. Lysara laughed through tears. Varric's arm came around her waist. The three of them stood tangled together. Keth circled them, then sat down with a satisfied huff. I have one more question, Varric murmured. Only one? Will you marry me, Lysara? Will you be my queen? Kyra was bouncing. Say yes. Say yes. Lysara looked at this man who had been brought to his knees by a child with mismatched eyes. Yes. Kyra shrieked with joy. Varric kissed her, and Lysara melted into him. When they broke apart, Kyra was beaming. I knew it, from the very first day. You were unconscious for most of the first day. I knew it unconsciously. Lysara laughed. Varric laughed. Keth howled. Some wounds could not be healed with medicine. Some wounds could only be healed with love. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. These stories only exist because of you. Because you listen, you share, you come back for more. I am so grateful you are here.